sent down on us a ma'idah, a tray laden with food, so that we can benefit from it, so we eat it, and so we can increase our certainty and so forth. Allah in turn, He answers the prayer. He always answers the prayers of the prophets and the imams. He answers the prayer and He says, I'm giving this to you. At the end He gives a warning though. He says, but beware. Right, once I give this to you, right, if any of you turns away from me, if any one of you becomes a kafir after this, then there's no excuse left and you're going to be destroyed. Right, once you know the truth, and once you personally see this miracle, then there's no excuse left for you. And if you reject me, then that's it. No excuse, no forgiveness, nothing for you. Right, so with that, He sends down the ma'idah for them, and that part is not narrated in the Quran. Only the prayer is there, the last conversation of Allah, and then we're led to assume that the ma'idah actually did come down. They actually did eat from it, and this was one of their miracles. Let's look at the verses, and I'll explain some things about it. It's narrated in chapter 5, Surah Al-Ma'idah, verses 112 down to 115. إذ قال الحواريون يا عيسى ابن مريم هل يستطيع ربك أن ينزل علينا مائدة من السماء قال اتقوا الله إن كنتم مؤمنين. Remember when the disciples said, O Jesus, son of Mary, can your Lord send down to us a tray laden with food from heaven? He warned them, fear God if you are truly believers. قالوا نريد أن نأكل منها وتطمئن قلوبنا وَنَعْلَمَ أَنْ قَدْ صَدَقْتَنَا وَنَكُونَ عَلَيْهَا مِنَ الشَّاهِدِينَ. They said, we want to eat from it, and we want our hearts to find peace, and we want to know that you have told us the truth, and we want to be among those who testify. You see, here are 4 things, 4 purposes that you have for asking for the ma'idah. قال عيسى ابن مريم اللهم ربنا أنزل علينا مائدة من السماء تكون لنا عيدا لأولنا وآخرنا وآية منك وارزقنا وأنت خير الرازقين. Jesus, son of Mary, complied and said, O God, O Lord, send down to us a tray laden with food from heaven, which will be the starting point of a festival for us and for the coming generations of our people, and a sign from you. And through it provide for us, for you are the best of providers. And one last verse. قال الله إني منزلها عليكم فمن يكفر بعد منكم فإني أعذبه عذابا لا أعذبه أحدا من العالمين. God replied, I will send it down to you. But should any of you disbelieve after this, I shall punish him in a way that I shall not punish anyone else in all creation. In a way that I shall not punish anyone else in all creation. If you notice a difference in the translation that I have here than other translations, it's my own translation. It's based loosely on the translation of Ali Qara'i. I think you have a copy of it here. It's usually a green cover. There's some other editions too. It's probably one of the best translations we have so far, but it still needs work. And so I start with that, and then I kind of fix it up according to my own style and according to my own understanding as I go through the tafsirs. So it's a different translation that you'll find anywhere else. All right, before we get into this, I want to just discuss something about these miracles. I mean, they are asking for a personal miracle here. They want this ma'idah, this table or tray to be sent down to them laden with food. I kind of did a survey using Al-Mizan as a basis of the Quran to see what kinds of miracles we have in the Quran and what are the purposes of these various miracles. I was able to divide them into about four different categories. There's some miracles that Allah sends down, and the purpose for these miracles is to empower the prophets to go and face those people who don't yet believe in them, but they're still open-minded people. They're simply ignorant people. So He empowers the prophets with miracles to then be signs to them, so they can kind of corroborate His own claim and say, look, I'm from God, this is my claim, and this is my proof that I'm from God. And then the people, of course, they have the option of either accepting it if they're open-minded and truthful, and rejecting it if they're stubborn. And so that's one of the usages of these miracles. It's like an identity badge, or it's a way to corroborate His claim. Examples of this in the Quran, for instance, we have Moses sent down with the white hand. Right? His hand would turn white. He would stick it into his clothing like this. When he brought it out, it would turn white. That was one of his miracles. He had the staff which would turn into a serpent, right, whenever he threw it down. So these miracles were given to him right at the beginning as a proof. So he would have that in his back pocket. So as soon as he made his claim and said, I am the messenger of Allah, he could also say, look, here's my proof. Here's a miracle of God to show that I have the power of God with me. Jesus' miracles in this way were several. We had his birth. His birth itself was one of these miracles. And then his ability to revive the dead, to cure the leprous, to cure the blind. And then, for instance, what was the other miracle he had? He spoke in the cradle. There's some other ones as well. And to create the bird as well, right? The clay. He was able to create the bird out of clay, blow life into it, and it would fly away. So he had all these miracles, and the purpose of these miracles was again to corroborate his claim. Our Prophet, sallallahu alaihi, his miracle was the Quran itself, a work of literary excellence that surpassed anything that any of the Arabs could come up with. Right? Not only was it did have literary excellence, but the content was also very beautiful. Right? It's possible to come up with something that's beautiful, but it's hollow inside, it's meaningless. Right? The words might be beautiful, but the meaning might be empty or might be wrong. This not only surpassed literary excellence of all human beings, but the content of it was also so wise and so beautiful that no one could match it. So that's one kind of miracle, one purpose of miracles, that was to be a proof and a corroboration for the Prophet's claim. And the audience of these miracles is really non-Muslims with an open mind. Okay? The second purpose for miracles is to show non-Muslims that are stubborn. Right? Sometimes Allah would send down miracles for the purpose of showing non-Muslims who are stubborn, kuffar who are stubborn, who are closed-minded, who are not going to accept. The purpose here was to either give them one last chance, knock them over the head one last time to wake them up. Sometimes it was to destroy them because they were totally hopeless and there's no chance left that they would ever believe. But these were the purposes. So the audience of these miracles were kuffar, non-Muslims, who were stubborn, not open-minded. The examples of this in the Quran, in the Quranic stories, one is the she-camel that Prophet Salih brought. Right? The people of Thamud, they were sent a prophet named Salih. And one of the miracles that he brought was this she-camel. And it was a she-camel that it was kind of created out of nothing. It came out of the mountain. Right? It wasn't born to other camels. And one of the things that he commanded his people to do, God told him to tell his people to do, was that they had to share their resources with his camel. So they had limited water. So the way it worked was, one day the camel got to drink water, and the alternate day the people got to drink water. Right? So every other day the people didn't have water. They had to kind of store water. They didn't have water to drink from their well. They had to devote it to this camel. They did it for a little while, and then they got sick of it. They're like, well, who's this camel? Like, we don't have to take this from a camel. And so they send someone to go and kill it. Right? The guy, it's a miracle from God. And Prophet Salih has told them to care for this. It's a miracle of God to take care of it. And here they go and they hamstring the camel and they murder it. Right? And the person who did this is considered really like a despicable person. Ibn Muljam is kind of his counterpart. We call Ibn Muljam Ashqal Akhirin. He's the most despicable, most wretched of the people who came in the later generations. The one who killed the camel of Salih is called Ashqal Awwaleen. From the former generations, he's the most wretched and despicable person.